Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. My name is Whitney. I am the project lead for Radar Relay. Um, and I'm here today with Ian.
Hey guys.
Ian is one of our main developers here, and he's been with us for quite some time. Yeah, we've got a couple things to mention, talk about here. But also, feel free to ask us questions. A big part of why we were asked here today was, Justin asked us to bring it, to be here and be available for questions that are relating to your projects for the hackathon. I'm sure there are going to be questions that we can answer and questions that we can't answer immediately as well. So, yeah, feel free to chime in or let us know if you have questions there. So a couple things about us here. As a team, we are still based in Northern Colorado, but our team is fairly distributed. So Ian and I are not even in the same office today. We're both in Colorado. We also have team members in the UK and South America and distributed across the United States. And you guys may have seen today that Radar is going through a bit of a rebranding. We just came out with a new website that is radar.tech. And that's kind of us dealing with some brand debt that we set up originally. So before anything was launched, there was the decision of, do we go with Radar as the brand and as the company, or do we go with Radar Relay as the brand and the company as well? And so you'll see a bit of a distinction here as we're branching off with Radar as the main company and Radar Relay, our relayer, as the product, as we're preparing to spin off a couple other products here. Our development team is working on a couple other things in the background there. Bit of a preview, just some new information. No real spoilers on that side today, though. So mainly hearing that we're talking about, building on 0x and building a relayer here. I'm not sure how many of you guys know the way that we started out as a company. Originally, a bunch of us, especially in the core team, were having the decision of what do we want to build, what do we want to build on, and looking at what 0x was already building. Our team said, "Hey, we don't want to reinvent this. This is already a good base for what we want to build with the relayer." Someone says our GitHub link doesn't work, and that's because it was switched to radar.tech as of today. So yeah, we decided that we wanted to build on 0x because it already had so many of the elements that we wanted for building a relayer. And really, we connected with the 0x team early, kind of to get a feel for what was going on, and wanted to be one of the first products to launch out there. I personally joined the team at that time, about 4 months after launch, starting on the language integration side. And let's go back to Ian here. He joined us over the summer. Actually has a bit of a background in design as well. So.
Hey guys, yeah. I joined, over last summer. Time has flown by. For the past several months, I've been in charge of UI, UX implementations across Radar products. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about user interactions and making those meaningful, in particular in context with a relayer. So particularly qualified to talk about UX, but if you have any API questions as well, I can field those. Not sure what else to add, but I'm an open book, so just ask away.
Hey guys.
Hey Sergey.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we should you have some presentation to tell us about like more in depth about the product or something, or should we ask our questions like straightforward?
We're really okay with you asking questions straightforward. Really, I'm we were told, hey, give us a talk about this. The big thing is we want it to be closer to a forum. So if people don't come up with questions immediately, we can totally ramble for an entire half hour about how a lot of this works, and a lot about the backgrounds and how we set things up.
Oh, I see. Cool, cool. May I know how much time do we have with you guys?
Today we've only got about 30 minutes, so
Oh, really? Very quick. Okay, so I should ask my questions immediately, I guess. Okay, so let me introduce myself shortly. I'm working as a researcher and analyst for Block Science. It's like a company who is developing systems, complex systems engineering, basically developing models and simulations for token economies for blockchain projects, led by Michael Zargam. I don't know if you know him. Yeah, so this is like my background. Also, my background is in UI UX design. And I'm working actually with my team members here on this hackathon. And I'm working as a both like business guy and like designer. We also have Kirill here. He's our like developer and like other business guy. And we have currently we have 3 person in a team. It's called HODL API, right? So our idea was to actually build out the API for like data for other projects to be able to get data from exchanges, from centralized exchanges first. Then we thought that we also need to add some decentralized exchanges. And then we stumbled upon this hackathon. Actually, we joined it only today. So we are like late to the party, but hopefully we will be able to just join guys and on this journey. Yeah.
So Sergey, is there something in dealing with the API that you have a direct question on, or?
Yeah. Oh, this direct question is like, can we get like a order books and like trade history and like other things from your API? I saw you have API from Radar Relay, right? And
so
yeah. And so just another question, so you can ask it or answer it straightforward. Another question is like, do we need to set up a relay on our site in order to get the data from your relay or something like that? Yeah, how we can use 0x protocol.
So actually, our API documentation, we've got some good documentation that's out there. It's also going to get better in the future. It's one of my projects that's coming up here. So we're going to have 2 kinds of endpoints for our API. The first are going to be the standard relay or API endpoints. This is built off of the 0x format for the standard relay or API. When you do that, it's a REST API, so you can call to get snapshots of the order book. It's also going to have the WebSocket, which is going to give you just events as new orders are put on the book. If you go into the 0x documentation, you can also find some tips about building a chain watcher, because you're going to want to look at when orders from the book are filled, partially filled, or canceled. So you're going to look at that separately, and you're going to bring your data together. Because we've had several people asking us about it around, I want to say, June of last year, we also made our own separate API endpoints and accompanying SDK. So with that, the separate Radar endpoints will still give you snapshots of the book and order history. And actually, you'll probably see in our chat here there's a couple comments that Ian is answering around different API calls. So if you're going with the Radar API, that WebSocket is also going to give you partial fills and cancellations as those are broadcast as well, because all of those are going to be separate events. In either case, you're still going to want to take the occasional snapshot, just to reconcile in case there's any reorgs or anything else that if you think you miss it, just as a best practice.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. And another question here is like, can we get like historical data from API, and like from which point we can get that data, right? From the the launch of the Red Relay, or like from approximately which date, and if we can even get the historical date.
I can answer this one. So we persist all of the data that has ever existed on our order books. However, around what I think it was October, 0x changed a lot around the specs of their protocol, and any orders made before then were pretty much invalidated. So at the moment, you would have information that's relevant till about October of last year. There are not any query parameters on our API currently to make traversing that data easier, but it's something that we've talked about. And it's certainly something we're open to implementing to make it easier to do this historical analysis of data, if that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
At the moment, your best bet is to simply go through a market that you want, say like the fills on, and then just keep getting the paginated responses and build them up that way. It's a little bit more manual, but it really depends on the level of analysis you're looking for whether that's a good use case.
Thanks. So October 2018, right? From October.
Approximately. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was around then.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, it was the launch of 0x version 2.
Yeah. Probably right. Yeah. And just another question. So if you have like any more questions when we will be like tackling your API, can we like ask you guys directly, or should we contact somebody else?
Actually, if you email us support@radarrelay.com, any of those questions are going to come to our team. If our support guy doesn't know the answer immediately, he's probably going to ask me.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And when I don't know, I'm definitely going to ask Ian.
Cool. Do you guys have like do you guys are in the 0x Discord? So like if we can contact you directly from there.
I'm in there. I know I'm in there. I don't look at it very reliably, but I can do my best to stay online for today.
Okay, thank you guys.
Say both of us are in there. If you send a message at us directly, both of us also have Radar in our names there. Yeah, we'll see that we got a message and we'll get back to you there.
Guys, thank you guys.
Any other questions directly about the API or implementation or things like that?
I want to make sure that everyone who has a question has a chance to ask it. So even if you don't want to speak up, like that's fine. I get it. You can throw it in the chat and I'll answer in the chat too.
Hello, do you hear me right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I have just a question regarding, I see current state of the API, and my question is, what is the plan for like extending? So you mentioned query parameters, and I wanted to like ask what is a plan which maybe you can disclose on new endpoints and maybe some additional features. So basically, I'm interested in to understand that how much data can be fetched through it. I already heard a response regarding October 2018, but I mean data not historically, but size amount of data.
I'm sorry, I was typing. I didn't register all of that you said. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, okay. So basically my question is, I see that right now through your API we can get data, but my question is, what is the limitation of like requests? So how much data we can fetch, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Rate limiting. Gosh, you know what? Give me a sec. I can't quite remember. Let me go find the
So
environment variable, and I'll be back in just a minute.
now the rate limiting right now is set at 2 requests per second. And originally it was actually lower than that. We've talked to several different app developers and you know, actually a couple of automated traders who've all said, "Oh, we'd love it if you would bump your rate limit up and make it much higher." And we probably could make it a little bit higher there. But also, any of them said, we'd love if it was higher, but we can totally work with this. So there hasn't been as much of a push for that there. Even with some of these market makers that are, putting out several transactions, basically pushing our rate limits and hitting almost exactly 2 transactions a second the entire time. As far as other data to the endpoints, we don't get a lot of requests for data that isn't there. There are a couple people who've made suggestions for conveniences around things. One of the things that we did recently was making it so with the standard relay or API endpoints, there's space for a bit of metadata, and making it so that people didn't have to hash the transactions themselves. Instead, we just implemented the transaction hash as part of the metadata through the SRA. But other than that, a lot of it's just open to request. If we have someone who is making something that has an implementation that they would need something else and need an endpoint for, we definitely consider it. And a big part of it is also, pretty much all of the endpoints that we use to run the app itself, we use the same endpoints that we expose for everyone else.
Got it. Thank you for your answer. It's clear now.
Any other questions? I know a lot of you guys are developing and probably things that would relate to the API, which is not necessarily my specialty, but I love to hear what you guys are developing and if there's anything else that we can do to make that data surface easier for you, or if there are things that are unclear in the process of connecting with our app.
And another quick question regarding the API. Sorry about that.
Certainly.
Yeah, but it's not really about API, but more about the like available historical data again, right? So do you have like it stored somewhere, or we still need to request it through API?
Yeah, you do need to access it through our API. We handle that internally.
Okay, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. Say technically it is also all on chain, but it's probably easier to go through the API because of the way that that's set up. Oh, we've got 7 minutes left here. Anyone want to tell me what awesome thing that they're building? Just give me 2 or 3 sentences. I want to hear what else you guys are making out there that may connect with us. Nothing? Okay.
Guys, I have another quick question. Not really a question, but but more about a question, but not about your project, not about API. But do you have like any requests from like market makers? Do you work with them or something like that?
For the most part, we don't work with market makers directly. We do have market makers who, some of them have reached out to us about our API, and they're definitely market makers who are making books on Radar Relay and on generally anyone who's using the open order book model anyways. Some of them have made very direct, introduced themselves by email and said, hey, we're working on integration. Can we ask you questions about implementation? And some of them have also just kind of reached out anonymously through Telegram. We only know a screen name or two, and they, again, ask questions about how they implement things, how they make sure that their order signatures are correct, or have questions about rate limits or different schema for things. But yeah, most of them we don't, actually quite a few of them we don't even know who they are. We just have a screen name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But do you see like any like problems, common problems that they face that can be solved, like for example with some API or some like there was an article from 0x, like 22 ideas on the products that can be built on 0x. One of them resonated with us very well with what we're doing. It was called like a market maker bundle, and it included historical price snapshots and this API for market makers. I just wanted to ask if you saw some like common problems that those people who were asking you about market making, do you like see some basically some problems that they all of them face or all of them ask for?
Specifically, couple of them were around, there were a couple of things that when we changed to V2, we saw some questions about making sure that certain things were put in as big numbers, and really just double checking those. A lot of other ones have been very specific to, am I calling the right endpoint? And usually it's a couple questions around making sure that they're choosing to call whether it's the radar relay endpoints or the SRA endpoints. Michael's asking if we are more active on Slack or Telegram. I'd say publicly Telegram, and that's just, and a lot of those are direct interactions. I see people jump in and then they message one of us directly. Internally as a company, we are definitely Slack heavy, and that's how we integrate with other teams when they have questions, or when we have questions for them about making sure that integrations work. Questions about the Kovan testnet tokens here. Yeah, our Kovan testnet has a smaller subset of tokens on there. They still, they're all functional. We did add a couple of those for as the 0x team was implementing 0x Instant. We added a couple other tokens that are specifically mintable, so they're easy to trade on there. Our Kovan environments, the pruners don't run quite as fast as they do on our main production environment, but that is the only difference. Other than that, everything else is exactly the same as prod there. So it's a great place for testing. Same with the Kovan API.
How do you guys use 0x Instant? Do you use it on the radar relay?
We don't use it specifically. There are several platforms out there that are in the process of implementing it. And then depending on how they set it up, any relayer with an open order book, when someone goes to place an order through 0x Instant, it's going to connect direct to the open order book, and it's going to act similar to a market order from there. Justin asking us if there are any plans for NFTs. It's definitely something that we're keeping our eye on. I'm not going to promise you guys that we're going to be doing anything about NFTs in the near future, but it is something that we've definitely looked into and we have a little bit of research on. I don't want to promise you guys anything before we're really certain on our roadmap around those. Looks like we got about 2 minutes left here. Any last dying questions, UI questions, UX questions, quirky questions about the team?
looks like that's about it. Whitney and Ian, I can't thank you guys enough for your time today. I really, really appreciate you guys going through, answering all of these questions. I know I got a lot out of it. I'm sure all of these participants did as well. And we'll be putting up this recording online tomorrow for everyone that wasn't able to make it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure we sound goofy, and there's some great awkward silences in here. And as you guys have, you know, if you guys think of questions later and go, oh, I should have asked that, you know, we're also available. You know, hit us up on, you know, email us at support@radarrelay.com. Jump into our Telegram, message one of us directly, you know, or call us out in Discord, because we are, you know, although not always in the 0x Discord, we are paying attention. And if you call us out, we'll definitely jump in there.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck with your projects. Look forward to seeing you guys out there, seeing what awesome things you come up with.